Okay, so last time with my bison horn, I mentioned that it does really well on Wildhorse Obsidian, which is a really, really soft obsidian. So I thought I better prove that out. Of course, just grabbed the closest piece I had next to my chair, and there's a reason it's sitting here. It is all cracked to pieces. You can see here on the end, it's taking a big blow. I think this is the section when I pried it out of the ground where it took some big shock from some hammers and pry bars and stuff to get this little piece out. And it's just full of cracks on this end. This is all going to go. I can tell immediately while I'm looking at it. But nonetheless, we'll give it a go here. So the bison horn, I brought it out a little bit early just because I wanted to spend most of my time working with it. I could have kept working the hammerstone down on this one a little bit. Again, the Wildhorse does not take hard percussion well at all, but bison horn does pretty well on it. Of course, there's always this one here was a perfect example. I punched it in there and it just didn't go, and sure enough, it sunk all the way in and hinged out just nicely. That's very typical on your edge work with the. I mean, it's typical in foot napping in general, but it's more so in this Wildhorse. My dog Lily comes over to say hi. Of course, I cut a ton of it out, but she was over here constantly. She always is when I run the bison horn. It gives off an odor. It smells like kind of burned hair. Um, and she gets curious about what's going on with that smell. So she's always coming over trying to check it out. Sorry about the blood. That's nasty. Just a little poke, it looks like in my pinky, but I'm a bleeder, right? Just tiniest little poke. That one barely even made it in the skin, and I think I finally get it taken care of, but when I realize it's happened. So when you can get flakes to run on this Wildhorse soft obsidian, um, it's very typical. You'll just get long, thin flakes. You can't really quite make it out here, but they're running a good distance. A lot of them are breaking up, but they're running at least halfway. So we're still thinning. It's just they're just small, and I'd like nice wide ones, and I get lots of those, of course, with this bison horn. But it's not uncommon to just get long, thin flakes that blow up on their way. So I don't even know why I'm showing that. That's embarrassing. I managed to junk up both sides of that edge there, and if there's one thing I've learned in life, when things get messy, just ignore them. They'll go away later. And in this case, that's absolutely true. Uh, I leave those and I just go to work on the back end and the far side. And I think, if I recall, I get a lucky break here eventually where I get an overshot, which is pretty very rare again on this obsidian. But with bison horn and even with my warthog tusk, I tend to get lots of overshots. But I get an overshot and I think it clears out one corner and gives me a bite on that side again, so I can finish clearing out what didn't come from the far side. So this is just shifting over to the shortened, small horn, bison horn. This is just a cut off tip of a bison horn, obviously. Again, I like it loose there on the stick. The stick performs no function for me other than to just kind of keep it up there on my lap so I don't have to keep holding it or putting it in place. I don't have to use my other leg to kind of hold it in place or anything. It's just kind of nice because it just kind of grips it there. I can use my two hands freely. And I pull up. You'll notice when I strike, I pull up on the bison horn. And that's just to create a little tension because the stick isn't holding it in place for me where I want. I can't depend on the horn being where I need it without just a little bit of back tension. So I always give a little bit of a lift and then a strike, and that guarantees that I've got all the force going into the tip of the horn, more or less all the strike. So it's thinning out really nicely now. That's what's nice about the little bit of a bison horn on that stick there with this particular material. Again, it just shoots long, thin flakes for the most part in this material, and that's exactly what you want right here when we're getting this thin. We've gone about as thin as we can with the Bison punch. We could do a little more, but I'm just going to go to the antler tine here and straighten out the edges, push some flakes in where I can pick them, and just go a little bit thinner here. But these are the final stages. This is just standard pressure flaking, so we're just going to speed this up quite a bit. So it's getting thin and starting to get sharp. I want to make sure I leave a nice edge on it, so I'm going to go in here and again just pick off the finest little pieces and get it as thin as possible on that edge. And give it a little test, of course. Takes a little bit of sawing on this leather, but not bad for a thin little point. And you gotta check both sides, of course. It's thin enough. There's no problems notching this one. And of course, Lily's got to get involved again. But yeah, it comes right through. Nice little C's popping out of it. No complaints on the notching here. It went well. Of course, my battery died just as I was literally pushing the last little flake out of the notch. So I came back the next day to show it. Comes out nice and thin. Pleased with it overall. Went well. Measures in at 2 inches if I recall. Yep. So about a little shy of 5 centimeters or so, and 1.5 inches wide, so 3.5, 4 centimeters wide. It was about just a hair over 1/8 of an inch thick. Just a hair on the biggest part. But yeah, thanks for watching.